It's summertime, and I am live on the beach in Long Beach, California, and this is your Namaste Today. Good morning and namaste, and welcome to Namaste Today, the Zodiac Weather. My name is Christopher Witecki. I am the sensei to serious joys, here to stand in my heart each day and walk in the light. Thanks so much for joining me again today. It's great to be back on the air. It was a little rocky last week, was it not? Whew, difficult. I am so please pardon my absence. But as you can see, I'm healthy and fine and on the beaches of Long Beach, California, which actually, strange coincidence to my astrology, is where I spent 5 years of my childhood. So I'm kind of doing a childhood retro look at in the retrograde, which I retro-realized when I was in my hotel. And I myself am beginning a journey now. I'm going to be exploring the United States and visiting viewers like you. And this is my first stop, which is the first stop in my life, Long Beach, California. And I'm actually on one of the beaches I think my mom took me to, which is really kind of uber cool. So today we are in Gemini. Gemini is the season of thinking. That's what astrology really is. It's the conscious seasons we go through. And so now we're in the conscious season of thinking, conscious season of communicating. And you can use common logic to kind of see where that goes. If we're going to update our thinking, then our decisions change, the people we connect to change, we reconnect to people, all sorts of great things. And that is the season of Gemini. But it's also a Rercury Metrograde, or Mercury is retrograde, which means a couple of things. It means that we're actually looking at thinking as a premise. Are we thinking about the right things? Are we thinking in the right pool of thought? So when we retrograde, we look at the very notion, the very root of our thoughts. We see the subconscious that maybe we hadn't seen before. And because of a retrograde, we often call in past life friends, past life lovers, past life situations in that retrograde period. I've noticed that in my study of astrology that retrogrades are when past life people enter stage. So cool. But today we are at step 17 Gemini. And step 17 is a powerful step. This is a committed step. This means in your thinking about thinking itself and thinking about specific things in life, today you will make a commitment or a decision to generally go this way. Now, I'm going to tell you through the show today, I don't expect you to be super confident of everything because Mercury is retrograde. And so we're kind of exploring, but we're not super sure. Mercury goes direct on Friday, though, so this is the last 4 days of intensive exploration and head-scratching and curiosity. Now, looking at the KEYstates of Awareness, I'm going to explain the architecture of incarnation a little bit different now. I'm trying to, in the retrograde, rewrite myself. There are really what I call KEYstates of Awareness, and that's the step 17, the key states of today's awareness. In other words, these are the states of awareness that have the most volume in your soul, and that's why I report it. And I think it's just because, you know, the earth is being rotated around the sun and God is giving the plant equal sunlight, you know. And so each state kind of gets its own time on stage, and that's what the steps teach you, is how the states rotate up and rotate down. Well, today the two states are love, which is step 10, or anything with a 1, and intuition is the other state. So our intuition is very, very sharp today. And for people who don't pay close attention to the subtleties, especially with the sun in Gemini, the intuition will just seem like a thought. And if you like the thought, you'll grab onto the thought. So people are highly susceptible, let's say, to hypnosis right now and suggestions, especially if it aligns with something they secretly or quietly or subconsciously wanted and didn't realize. So today it is love on the table and it is intuition. Now the ruling state of awareness is 8. I decide. That's because 1 plus 7 makes 8. And so these two states add up to a decision. And that's why we make a decision. This is when we turn a corner. Sometimes we manifest in our life a reason to turn a corner. Sometimes we decide, hey, it's time to turn a corner. I've had enough with this. And in each of your lives, you'll be turning a corner somewhere, or at least committing to maybe a point in the future, a vantage point of manifestation, probably in the next 24 hours. Then another state I want to bring awareness to today is our emotional state. Our emotional state is a very powerful state. So we have the key states, the ruling state, and the emotional state. This is the melody of what's going on today. And our emotional state today is really compassion. That's because the moon is in Pisces. I'll talk about that in the cosmic clock. But compassion rules the day. And sometimes compassion, when it's not well directed, turns into poor me, which is okay, because poor me is what finally gets you to be compassionate to yourself. But also compassion is often when we can finally relax, we can finally let go, we can finally not worry. So I'll give you some help on where the compassion is for there as well. But let's first look at the colors of the day and the ruling chakras. So today, the ruling chakras are going to be based on, of course, our I Gemini, which is I think. And I think is in yellow. So we are really working on our solar plexus. This is why this is where a lot of our information comes through I feel and connects to I think right there in the yellow. So there's a lot of gut knowing right now this time of year, a lot of gut sensing, a lot of understanding, a lot of calibrating. We are kind of able to feel through space and time what's going to go on and what's not going to go on. Wow, we have a bird explosion here. I don't know if this is going to be caught on camera. It's really cool though. There they go. So we're in the yellow today. You want to do some maybe breath work in the yellow. Then we open up the crown in I sense, the I sense state of awareness, which is the top. So this is to open the crown is basically to listen and really to be mindful of what's going on in your higher senses. And then finally, our emotions, the moon, is also highlighting the crown. And the crown, therefore our emotions also give us intuition, not just our own being. So we're getting information from psychic awareness from our feelings, and we're getting our psychic awareness volume up at large. But before we move on to the cosmic clock, let's prepare by taming our brain, shall we? With the phrase of the day. Today I am mindful of the shadow and listening with my heart. Today I am mindful of the shadow and I am listening with my heart. Now, interesting, where does your mind go when you think shadow? Okay. Mindful of the shadow, really, energetically, is mindful of where there is not light. Now, there's only a boogeyman in the shadow if you create a boogeyman in the shadow. Otherwise, a shadow is simply lacking wisdom, awareness, light. And really, there's something that's not been brought to light that is lurking in our shadows today. In our personal shadows, like, my heart really wants this and I haven't told anyone, or that sort of thing. So today we want to listen. It's an intuition day. This is all turned up. You see why, the ruling states and the crown lit up. Today we want to be mindful of the shadows. In other words, listen, be mindful of where those little places are that are still with question marks. And then secondly, listen to that area with your heart. So if your heart goes, ooh, what is that? And your heart asks the question, or if your heart is the one that explores, or your heart is the one that opens the door, then you're opening it with love. You're not opening it with fear. And that's exactly what you want to do to shadows. Fill them with light. And if you don't know what light is, it's love. So today as we walk out the door, I'll say it one more time to keep it in the mind. Today I am mindful of my shadows, and I am listening to them with my heart. And so it is, because I said so, I thought so. So let's wrap up this segment and move on now to our cosmic clock and see the inner gears and workings of today. And here we are with the cosmic clock. Well, the sun has progressed to step 17, Gemini, so we're basically 18 steps into our season of thinking. And like I said, this is when we think differently, and you'll see today, I believe, we reframe some of our thought. Now, in the sun of thinking, the ruler of thinking is Mercury, and today Mercury is at step 4. Mercury is retrograde, of course, so it appears to be moving backwards in the sky. It means that we are literally unzipping the very framework of our thinking. And this is, thank God for Mercury retrograde, or people maybe would never think differently. And that's because the other kind of side of things is shown. So a lot of secrets are shown, a lot of truths come out. You hear stories about things you lived in the past, now with more detail. All sorts of interesting facts come out in the retrograde. But I'll say this, at step 4, this is the I belong. That means the mind will stay right here at step 4, by the way. It stays at step 4, and that's where it stops. And then it continues direct on Friday in step 4. So step 4 is I belong. So our mind basically either is belonging to the right framing, right framework, right perspective, And by the way, right is for your heart, right is for what you want, or your mind is not. And so that is what this week's quest is to see if your mind is subscribing to the right way of looking at things, the right way of framing things. And it may take all week to get there. Now Mars, our aggressiveness, is pushing at step 19, pushing for a new mindset to be manifested. Step 19 is I manifest. So we're looking for a whole new mindset. So here's the other part of our soul pushing that top ceiling. And interestingly enough, this Sun, Mercury, Mars, this is a stellium. Of course, they're working all within one kind of unit harmony, but they're also separated in individual sort of forces. And today, they're also squaring the moon. The moon is in Pisces, and this is where I get the compassion. So the moon in Pisces means we're brought into compassion. The universe is pushing for us with the currents and the wind blowing. Basically, the conscious winds that are blowing is to let it go, to not hold on to the past, to go ahead and let these old things go and just write them off as an experience, and let's now make and create a new experience. So the moon is encouraging us to forgive and forget, especially as it crosses over Neptune, which is the grandpa of psychic awareness, and this is the wizard in the solar system that brings in all the truth and information. So as we cross that, you might come into some truth today. You might emotionally accept some truth. That's another thing that tends to happen. Or you might be propelled to act on a truth. In other words, you got the information that you needed, and you're going to move forward, and you're going to do something with it. Now, tomorrow the moon will cross over Chiron, so there'll be extra healing that goes on, and that will occur. But today, it's really just about listening in and moving forward. Now, again, this moon and this whole crossing of Neptune does square all of our triad there with the sun, and particularly with Mercury at this stage. So what that means is that it may take our compassion, that might be the lubricant, that might be really what compassion is lubricant. It may take this compassion for us to kind of let go and let things flow. And that is ultimately what I think I would encourage today. Now, moving along, Jupiter is at step 17 as well today. So the sun has reached the same step as Jupiter. Jupiter is in step 18 of Leo. And so this means the I sense, the 7, the intuition, this is being involved with the heart's choice. And with Jupiter at step 17, we're being asked to make a choice with our heart. So what does our heart want? This choice, of course, is in alignment with the new thinking. And of course, the choice is in alignment with where one belongs, right? We belong where our heart desires. So basically, if you follow the steps here, you're not going to be really aware of how to think until you know what your heart wants, and that is a decision. That is not something that you just discover, it's something you decide, knowing the evidence and knowing what you know now. Don't hold on, because you can always move on to the next step and climb, but you don't want to sit still and not decide anything. So at least pick the low-hanging fruit. Then Venus, Her Majesty, is now at step 3, Leo. That means since I've been off the air and back on, our receiving is now pure love. And Venus in Leo is going to be here for quite a long time. In fact, we're going to have quite an interesting summer starting July 25th. We have a Venus retrograde. Venus is going to go all the way to Virgo, stop, come all the way back into step 14 in Leo, and go all the way forward again. And I'll be talking about this more through as we move through the days here of our summer. But that kind of a Venus retrograde literally is some sort of past life love, because it's Leo coming forward. So these could be past life love, this could be past life enemies, which is our heart twisted, and those will start to come out July 25th. Kind of interesting stuff. So today, Venus is just kind of getting acquainted. We're starting to listen to our heart, and step 3, Leo, means we're listening to what our heart really believes. Do you really believe you're supposed to be stuck in this town? Do you really believe that's your only option? Do you really believe that's what your heart's kind of asking? Then lastly, I want to point out a Jupiter and Uranus square. Jupiter, which I just brought up, which is following the heart, is actually, it's not square, excuse me, trine, is trining Uranus. And what that means is as we make that decision with our heart, we're going to be instantly creating not just this new set of way of thinking, but we're going to also be creating a new character. Uranus is in Aries. So Uranus is in Aries at step 19, ready to manifest that new character, just like Mars is at step 19, ready to manifest that new mindset. And so today, as you make that decision with your heart, it gives you the frame set of where your mind belongs, and it builds this new character. It begins this new character. So you can see, indeed, there is a lot hanging kind of on the line. Now, looking at the Tower of Truth, we're at a triad here. We've got an interesting chord. At the very bottom, our mind is ready to jump ship. Step 4 means the very fundamental step of the thinking is willing to be pulled up and replanted. So you may completely change mindsets at any second, like I said, in the next 4 days. Today, the sun is at step 17, so we're making a decision based on what we do know. Hopefully that decision is based on the new belonging at the root, not the old belonging at the root. So if you're trying to fix something right now, I don't think you fix anything right now. You deal with what the truth is. And then Mars is we're holding space to manifest that top row. Cool stuff, huh? So before we go to commercial, I want to do today's telepathy. This is a little game where I send telepathy from me to you. You know, I had actually a reading over the weekend, and the viewer said, you know, I don't get today's telepathy. I don't know most of those people. You don't need to know most of the people. That's the whole point. The whole point is to look at the names and see what kind of tingles. Psychic energy is very subtle. You have to learn by mapping yourself and listening and doing it every day. You have to practice every day. And that's why I'm helping you here with today's telepathy. And just to make it interesting, we're keeping it within a theme. And for those who don't care about this, that's why I choose Gemini personalities. And we are looking at Geminis, and we're looking at the classic Gemini man. These are classic Gemini male actors. You'll know what I mean when I see them. But only one of them I am thinking about and have more information on after the break. Am I thinking of number 1, Gemini Tony Curtis, number 2, Gemini Dean Martin from the Rat Pack, right? Or number 3, John Wayne? Which Gemini am I having extra information on? I'll have the answer right after this. With love is we don't know ourselves well enough to know who we want. Introducing Secrets of Birthdays, the Love and Lust Report. You send us your date of birth, we send you a custom video, and we'll talk all about you. The kind of charisma you have, your personality, are you funny, not funny? What's a perfect romance? What's a perfect wedding? What's a perfect home? And what not to do with you. Find out the secret to your heart at secretsofbirthdays.com. And all the uncertainty. Order one now. Welcome back to Namaste Today. And for the answer to today's telepathy, I'm thinking of classic Gemini male actors. Which of these classic male actors was I sending telepathically to you? Was it number 1, Tony Curtis, number 2, Dean Martin, or number 3, John Wayne? And the answer is John Wayne. Now, you know, each of these men are known for their great diction. You know that? They spoke and had great diction. That's one of the things you see with Geminis. But John Wayne, of course, was a little extra special, wasn't he? He had some sort of sparkle that others didn't have. Well, he was born on May 26, 1907, and was a step 4 Gemini. Step 4 is, I belong, right? So his whole life was hopping around different mindsets. That's how he acted. That was part of his genius. Feeling if he can get his Gemini mind to feel like he belonged as a cowboy or he belonged somewhere else, I think that was a framework of the whole character. And that is the power of the mind. If your mind believes something, everything follows suit with it, enough for even everyone else to believe it. That's reality, and that's interesting. So, interesting fact about John Wayne. You know, the worst film of time he ever made, everyone says, was The Conqueror, which was produced by Howard Hughes. And that film was actually shot in St. George, Utah, and unfortunately, right near a fallout situation from our own government's nuclear testing. And it's been believed that John Wayne died of lung cancer from shooting that movie, from being the fallout of our own nuclear bombs. Is that not sad? You know who else was in that film? Agnes Moorehead, Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched. She was the mother-in-law in Bewitched. She too died, and she was in that film as well. So, weird stuff. Howard Hughes always regretted that, and the federal government always claimed that it was safe for Howard to shoot there. Wonka, wonka. Let's now move on to today's rock and roll gospel. I am picking, of course, a Gemini with some awesome ability, and this one has a story dear to my heart. The Gemini I'm picking is Miles Davis. Now, I'm picking Miles Davis because when my son was in my ex-wife's womb, I almost said my mother, there's a Freudian, in my ex-wife's womb, he told me he wanted to be called Miles. He told me he wanted to be called Miles, and he showed me a picture of Miles Davis. Now, I actually didn't even know who Miles Davis was other than the name at the time, which is one of the reasons I realized my son was saying Miles, and then my son gave me another image of a Miles I knew from childhood, so my child telepathically talked to me and said he wanted to be called Miles, like Miles Davis. So I have always looked at Miles Davis and tried to keep it in Miles's life, although he doesn't seem to be interested so far. Maybe it's just a name thing. And Miles Davis, believe it or not, was born May 26, 1926, a step 4 Gemini. And this was a jazz musician who too was brilliant, because he could like get his mind around a certain way of jazz, and within that framework he could go wild. He could belong to any sort of different musical kind of system, let's say. So it's very much like John Wayne. Step 4 is, you want to know something funny? I actually just sensed to choose these two, and then when I did the research, I found they were both born on the same day. So cool, the coincidences. So today I am saying, here's a cool song to listen to if you want to get into the speed of things. It's called The High Speed Chase, one of Miles Davis's pieces. Listen to it. You'll be amazed at how ahead of his time he was when he was doing that jazz. Amazing, cool stuff. So let's move on to now today's Joy Quest. Today's Joy Quest, should you choose to accept it, is basically how to frame your day and what to focus on. This one, you're going to die, but it's so true. Use the Force. And I mean it with my whole heart. You know, Star Wars is coming back. That means all of us Star Wars geeks can get away with acting like Star Wars for the next maybe 5-6 years. We get away with it. So yay! And that's my inner child. And so I'm going through an inner child transit right now. So that means I get it. It's like bringing my inner child out and bringing my heart out. And Jupiter's in Leo, bringing people's heart out. So Star Wars is it. But I actually mean it. Use the Force. Do you believe you have the Force or not? You know, like as a kid, I was raised to believe I did. And I still believe I do. I teach it. It's the force of love, of course. I think that's what the Force is. And today, as you're making your decision, as intuition is ruling the day, I say, use the Force. Insert your name. Use the Force. And that brings me to another whole fantasy now that I'm doing childhood. I always wanted to be Obi-Wan. That was who I wanted to be. Not so much Luke. I didn't want my hand chopped off and all that sort of thing. I'd rather appear as a ghost and be cool and stuff like that. And, so anyways, Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of says, use the Force today, or Obi-Wan CW, as my friends say. Use the Force today. Listen to your instincts. Make your decisions with what you don't see. Make your decisions with what you sense with your heart in the shadows. But before you go off and use the Force, let's take a look at the moods of each of your brothers and sisters today, and a special soul vitamin. And today's soul vitamin is sponsored by both Jupiter and Uranus. That is, if you make that decision with Jupiter, what you love, you will innovate and create the Uranus. So I'll explain the decision that leads to the creation for each of the 12 signs of the zodiac in the 11 steps to serious joy, starting with the secret step, step 0, Scorpios. Scorpios, sunny and childlike today, but our sponsor Jupiter says if you decide what you want in your career, you will innovate and create the lifestyle you've always wanted. Step 1, the Leos, sunny, a little private and withdrawn today, but it says if you decide who you really are, you will innovate and create your life purpose. Step 2, the Cancers, sunny and rather pensive or chit-chatty today. If you decide what you're really worth, you will innovate and create your career. Step 3, the Sagittariuses, the Archers, sunny, nesting, and resting today, I think with the moon in Pisces. But if you decide what you really believe, you will create and innovate true love. Ooh. Step 4, the Aquarians, sunny and manifesting today for the Aquas. But if you decide who you want to marry, you will innovate and create your mindset or your frame of thinking, or you might free your mind from depression or something like that. Step 5, the Geminis, sunny and professional today. Happy birthday, Gemini, by the way. That's what the high pitch means. If you decide what you really think, you will innovate and create your new social life. A lot of Geminis have been waiting for that. Step 6, the Librans, sunny and hyper-aware of their reality. If you decide what the social title is you want for yourself, you will innovate and create a new marriage. Wonk, wonk. There you go. A lot of Librans marrying up as they do. Step 7, the Pisces, sunny and cool today with the moon in their sign. If you decide what you want in the moment, you will innovate and create your money. So it's based on the moment, basically based on the job, not based on the salary. Step 8, the Capricorns, sunny and sharp today. But if you decide what you really trust, particularly in yourself, you will innovate and create your emotional tranquility and home base and foundation. Step 9, the Aries, cloudy, spiritual, a bit withdrawn today. But if you decide what you really love, you will innovate and create who you are. All right, that's a huge one for the Aries. Step 10, the Tauruses, sunny and social today. If you decide what home is to you or what emotional security is, you will innovate and create higher faith. And my home, ironically, now is kind of on the road, so funny. Step 11, the Virgos, sunny and sentimental today. But if you decide what faith really is, you will innovate and create what to trust in life, which basically is the keys to alchemy when you do that. Now, for those watched over by my Serious Joy Personal Sensei service, I'm going to help you with today's transits. First, at 11:11, I'm going to give you what the soul mission is for your whole week. So what you need to accomplish this week in spirituality. And this is basically your soul inner mission. Then at 3:03 p.m., I'm going to tell you how that's going to affect your outer life. So soul inner decision affecting soul outer life. That's the arc of today's Serious Joy. Now, if you'd like to join my Personal Sensei network, come on down to seriousjoy.me with your date of birth and exact time. I will give you personalized, innovative, and very sometimes funny text messages through the day. It keeps you going. People need it. And another announcement, I now have video recorded readings. So if you get a reading with me on Skype, it's now recorded split screen. And I'm doing a special right now. I want to shoot some commercials showing people how cool I am in a reading. So if you are willing to be in the commercial, I will give you a 1-hour reading for just $99. You're going to have to give me the right to use your pretty face on commercials, but come on down to soulmart.me and get a $99 reading and let the whole world see a couple moments. I just want to show people what it's really like. I don't think people know. So remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe. I thank you ahead of time. And on Facebook, you can be my friend by going to soulgarden.me. And of course, if you come to Soulmart, you can pick up any of these things like secrets of birthdays and these cool things where you can interact with me. And remember, while you're out there intuiting your day, use the Force, says Obi-Wan CW. I love you. I'll be back from somewhere sunny in 24 hours. Until then, live, love, be.
This is just so ironic.
So